Teaching people Unix, C, and Oracle. That's how my career got started. That led me from teaching students to corporate employees. Somebody who was part of my corporate C++ training reached out and said, "Why don't you help me incorporate a captive in India?" And that was for a Saudi based company which was doing its project for Philip Morris in Dubai, and started as a tech architect of sort, and started working on a handheld computer, a small handheld computer which new generations will never relate to. I did that for a justifiable time, was responsible for the front end because the mobile was a front end. And at that time, there was an opportunity for me to move to Dubai, and I had certain family commitments, family, sisters, and such, which I had to attend to. So I decided to stay back. That's when I got a break into a company called Aspect Development. Aspect Development was part of inbound supply chain expertise. It had a captive in Bangalore, joined as their 15th employee or so. When I went for the interview, the India software head was interviewing me, and he said, "Why don't you focus on the software development side?" And then I moved to another company called Symphony Services. Symphony Technology Group at that time acquired a company called Cambridge Technology Partners, and they set up a company in India called Symphony Services. It is a rechristened name, and joined there as a lead developer. I moved away from products to services, sort of a mindset was new to me, but it basically meant now that you're serving customers as a capability center. Through my career in Symphony Services, which was close to 11 years, I incubated and supported close to five different portfolios of Symphony Technology Group. So Symphony, even in those days, used to go and acquire companies, invest in companies, offshore it to India. And as part of that, I started my journey with the portfolio called Symphony RPM. It was a BI OLAP multidimensional engine. Was responsible on the backend server development. Then moved on to Symphony IRI, which is in the intermediary space. They buy retail CPG data and provide analytics insight, where my OLAP platform became a liquid data on which the solutions were built. Then moved on and created another portfolio called Symphony Advanced Media. Then I did something to do with Symphony Analytics. And then it came to a point, four of us who knew each other, why don't we do something on our own? That's when we incubated a startup called Rennie Analytics. It's a Texas based analytics boutique company which we incubated. I was responsible on the technology delivery from India. We were a 40-man team making a revenue of 5 million in its good days. We lost two good customers, and certain reorientation of business alignment made me look out. That's when I stepped out of that comfort of having built a startup and was doing pure play consulting for startups and such. There was a calling from Persistent System, which was again in the IT services space, especially for the product engineering services business, to come and help transition staffing to ownership sort of a model. Got involved, did that for 8 months, but driven by my own interest of what I need to do next, and seeing certain limitations of how not necessarily always revenue pressures comes in, supplements your innovative mindset. And that's when I stepped out again, went back to startup consulting. And that is when I got a calling from STG again, saying, "Subbu, we heard you are in the market, you're available. Would you be interested to come back into the foray?" And that's when one thing led to another. And the question was for which portfolio, and they said Wrike. Truth be told, and this is where I think we need to focus more on Wrike in terms of what its capability and its awareness, there is a disconnect. That is what awed me, saying, "Oh, a platform of this caliber, if they are building a offshore center of excellence in India," I said I should be part of it. And on 29th September, I onboarded Wrike as VP Engineering. Very excited to be part of Wrike, very excited to be part of the Wrike technology team. It feels great that the team welcomes you with a welcoming heart, and they are ever supportive. Clearly, services comes with one mindset, product comes with another mindset. Product revolves around innovation, competency, capability. And that's when I realized Wrike is a workflow collaboration platform, which is a product, SaaS based. And not just it is a product, I had an early understanding that a platform itself can only do so much. There are wonderful blueprints the company has invested in, and the blueprints gives value to every domain which adapts this product. The second thing is the capability is enhanced, empowered by this business blueprints, which can be applied on top of the platform to give bigger value to business. So one is the product mindset, a product by itself, and a product in a space of collaboration. I think the biggest lack in our society in general, and especially when it comes to businesses, is collaboration. I've explored analytics, I've explored data, I've explored retail, CPG, supply chain, but not workflow collaboration. So I said, this could be a good start, and an opportunity to incubate a team is another opportunity which I'm excited about. I like making connects with people, finding new competencies in people. It is like mining, right? I mean, you normally don't find precious metals so easily. We need to really mine and find the precious metals. I think that is how we need to build this initial team. Even though we are setting up a Wrike Center of Excellence in India, it is still a part of incubation within STG Labs, right? We still have the infrastructure support from STG Labs to set up this Center of Excellence, right? And STG Labs have been doing this for last 2.5 years or plus. And by that virtue, that process was set for somebody like me to onboard into a platform for me to get visible to Wrike. That was one. And from the right perspective, it is the day of onboarding itself, I received everything, whatever I need to start contributing, right? I was welcomed by a welcoming email, which had every information of what I need to enable myself. Of course, the infrastructure from the laptop and such was already provisioned from STG. But for me to get into an online system and start contributing and meeting up with my leadership team, my colleagues and such was enabled from day one. I had absolutely no lag from the time I onboarded to being productive, driven by how this ecosystem cohesively worked, which meant STG onboarded me, but STG kept it transparent to Wrike, and Wrike onboarded me at the same time. And by that virtue, I was fully enabled to start contributing from day one. Engineering team is extremely capable, driven by what they have achieved till date. Because when you look into a product with this level of complexity, in terms of the ability for it to seamlessly enable enterprises to collaborate, and the amount of integration it has, and the complexities around integrations and such, I think it's a very complex piece of product which would have had a very humble beginning to its starts to where it is today. And deep respect to each and everybody who would have contributed to this product to this scale and size today. We drive ourselves to achieve what needs to be promised to an end customer, correct? I mean, the OKR culture in terms of how we drive ourselves, I think it's visible in every aspect of engineering. Generally a very welcoming team, which is very open, very transparent, very willing to share their knowledge for a newbie like me to get empowered and enabled. Team is very capable. We just need to complement that team by building another capable team out of the India Center of Excellence. I think is the culture. Geographically, we might be different, but I think as long as culturally we are aligned in terms of what is that we need to achieve. And culturally, I'm not talking about geography as a culture. So I think today the way we are going to work initially, even when we are incubating our Center of Excellence team in India, is going to be a global team. So yes, our engineering team is predominantly in Prague, Nicosia, and Estonia, and the extended team is going to work out of India, driven by the culture of teamwork, which is an integral part of what we call out as our right culture. I think it will enable us to perform. The second other aspect is clear communication, and transparent communication goes a long way. And that's another culture I have seen. It is not called out. I don't see anybody wasting anybody else's time having unnecessary meetings and such. Meetings are timed. Stand up is timed. If it's 10 minutes, it's 10 minutes. I have seen them finish it earlier but not take it longer. So we respect each other times. And in that cohesive mode, when we work, I think a geography separation will not add any challenge. we should still be as productive as ever. Bangalore is the IT capital of India, so I think that could be the reason why it is Bangalore. There is not a single company of varying size which does not have a presence in Bangalore. The presence is either direct or they have certain site offices in Bangalore, so that's given. It's the IT hub. Lot of competencies, lot of good schools to tap into and such. Environment itself is such, it's very pleasant. Everybody wants to be part of this climate and environment. People in Bangalore are also very welcoming of such. For reasons, there are a lot of other companies with technical skill set around what we need and such. It gives you a good ecosystem for us to look into competencies of what we need. It also gives you a good ecosystem to collaborate and network and grow. The IT export on the services side is close to 100 plus billion dollars is the number I recall. Industry is a growing industry. I think IT services, if I recall the number, I'm talking from memory, Anton, is around 8.3 or 8.5% growth year on year, which is good. We are not identified as a country where we have created innovation on the software side, right? If you really double click and look into companies which has created software products which are used at a global scale, I think there are very few to name. We serve them by virtue of technology enablement IT services. So the technical competency is there, but innovation in terms of softwares we would have built, which is making an impact at a global scale, I don't think there are many very to call out. So the vision is to create a center of excellence which excels in software development for one, plus comes with an innovative mindset to enhance this collaborative platform to the next generation and thereby win more customers. The second aspect, I'm not stopping myself as the center of excellence leader to say it should be limited to software development. India is a huge market. There are a lot of industries which suffers because of lack of collaboration. And if I can take our platform to those markets to adapt, and thereby that market giving their input for it to expand beyond its current functionality, I think is the good opportunity for us to leverage. I think there is a lack of collaboration between faculty, students, and the industry experts, right? Curriculums are isolated. Curriculums are not aligned with how industry expects the candidates to be or the students to be when they come out as enabled. And universities are working in isolation. If our own platform can be sold into this ecosystem, wherein it enables the university to empower the student better and gets the industry expert to contribute in that, I think the platform would have a good positioning to start with. What better than positioning the platform to a student community so that when they come out, they become our advocates in terms of branding our product, right? I think that's the short vision in terms of market. But I'm also not limiting. Yes, we are going to start as a co-engineering to start with. But as we gain traction and we come into some size, I want to work with our existing engineering team to take over certain set of ownership, which we can also deliver autonomously from India. Yes, everything around technology. We are on a very stable technology stack, top end of the stack. So it's all to do with the Java, Angular, React, which everybody resonates and relates to today. That is definitely one. But even beyond that, if I were to look at it, we are looking at, yes, we are looking at data engineers, we are looking at Salesforce engineers, we are looking at engineers for website development from an enterprise platform front. So that way, yes, we are not limited to engineering. We are looking for marketing folks. We are looking for marketer folks. We are looking for functional engineers too. So that way, it's a whole spectrum. It's not that it's only engineering which is creating a center of excellence in India for Wrike. That is not true. We are creating a center of excellence across all aspects of business because the talent pool is broad, it's big. But yes, getting the right talent pool to incubate in the beginning would be the key for us to achieve. The one thing which even I found to my ability where Reich differentiates itself is in its values. The values of what Reich is looking for, I think, is something which should be a common denominator as well for every company if they have to be successful. Because what is that we are calling out as right values, right? One thing we say, move fast and move fast later, right? I mean, basically, what are we saying? Don't get lost in analysis paralysis. Get started, get something to market, learn from the market, learn from your customer, and move forward, right? That is not specific for Reich. I think it's a good culture anybody should carry. So the Reich culture, I become an advocate not from Reich cultural aspect, the commonality of what everybody can adapt. And then I think every other aspect that we say customer comes first, I think that is what every business should typically look at. Customer coming first, right? Because it is because of the customer we exist. The other bigger aspect of what we say, deliver business outcomes, right, is another thing we call out. And that's where that OKR principle played a very pivotal role in my understanding initially as well. Not getting lost with certain KPIs which gives no outcome means nothing, but coming up with an outcome first in terms of what we need to achieve, and then breaking that into what is the key criteria to achieve it, and thereby attaching a result to it. And when I realized that is how our engineering operates in terms of Scrum, gave me a lot more promise, saying that everything we are working is going to be used by a customer. What I realized here is, if our culture is validated in every candidate whom we are interested in, just reinforces the fact that we are very serious about the culture, because we see value in what we believe as our culture. Each of us as an individual in our career want to have a career growth, and as part of career growth we need to feel accomplished in whatever we do. I mean, it is not to do with our job. Even in life you want to feel accomplished, and to me accomplishment comes if there is learning in the job you do. And how do you learn? You either learn on your own, or you are part of a bigger better team which has better capability than what you are to learn from and grow. You're going to be a part of a team which is far more enabled than you are, and that gives you an opportunity to learn and grow with them. Now, growth is not limited to only technology. Growth is also limited beyond technology in terms of business and domain, in terms of culture, and we are enabling every candidate who is going to be a Riker tomorrow to be part of that ecosystem. And that is what I play with. And it is not a sales story. If I don't believe in it, I can't convince others. The second aspect is naturally everybody who comes in has an aspiration of financial growth as well. And the financial growth, we are not limited to. We are market competitive in terms of what we are doing for candidates. Is this an infinite market where we can compete with each other to death? The answer is no. Everybody works within the business constraint. So I still think we are very competitive in terms of what we can offer candidate in terms of financial growth. But the bigger value I see is complementing this financial growth is the career growth. Everybody who is joining Rike today is also enabled to go through our Rike Discovery, the Rike platform, to know what the platform is, what it is, what its capabilities and such. And usually, the way I position is, nothing is stopping you to expand yourself beyond your IT skill set help desk. Get into something like a product, know everything about the product. Nobody is going to come in your way of your growth to become a customer support executive knowing the product inside out. If you know as much and you're technical enough and you're prepared to skill and grow, nothing is stopping you to become a professional services expert tomorrow. So the good news is, a product of this caliber, which has technicality, support services, professional services, business technology services, there is enough room for people to learn and grow. So I think the key is making ourselves visible in terms of what the product platform capability is. And the second bigger aspect is to call out that fact, if you need to grow, you need to come out of a comfort zone. And that is true for everybody, it's including true for me, right? Most of the good candidates, I believe, are lost in their current comfort of wherever they are in. And if they have to come out of the comfort, it's only when you come out of the comfort you're going to learn something new. When we start believing that our intelligence, I am the end of it, then we also end with it. So we need to believe there is some bigger intelligence outside which I can learn from. And if candidates are looking for that sort of an environment, I believe we have it in Rike. And we have it in Wrike driven by the fact we have very competent engineers who have contributed to this platform growth, and they are still integral to this organization to help others. So I think one is definitely branding right, that the community is aware of a product of this caliber. Next, being aware of the product is this company is also having a center of excellence in India where they are growing and incubating. The other bigger aspect is it has a culture which enables, empowers you, and you are driven. I mean, that's another thing I tell the candidates here. Nobody here is going to come and monitor what you're doing or not. We want you to be so empowered, enabled, that we need you to drive yourself. And that is why even in our filtering process, we are particular about certain softer aspects of what we look for in a candidate, right? I think as much as technicality is important, aptitude, attitude is equally important. So we look for all that three mind maps for somebody to be part of a Riker. And I'm glad to say, yes, in even with that ask, we have been able to find good candidatures, and that is going to keep growing. When you're part of a new ecosystem, you being welcomed and being accepted, and how that happens itself drives the way forward. And for me, that was very welcoming. And that aspect and experience, what I went through, I call it out in my experience when I talk to candidates. The second part, the bigger reason I respect Rike is the ability to empower and enable leaders. And what I say for myself is true for what we will do to our candidates. We will empower, we will enable them, and from that point onwards, we are expecting them to drive themselves and be successful. And that sort of independence, a competent candidate will always respect it, because we are not a flocking culture anymore, right? Nobody needs to be monitored for being productive. Typically, in an IT services sort of organization, that is how I've seen the culture to be. And we are not that culture. Our culture is very different. You come in, you sign up, you are integral part of a global scrum team. It is for you to subscribe to what has to be done depending on your skill set. And you need to drive yourself, you need to be direct, transparent, and you need to go and achieve it. And I think that sort of a culture, I don't believe many organizations do offer. And I strongly believe we are enabled and empowered to do that. And that is another very hard sell which I do when I talk to candidates, because not again I sell, because I believe in it, because I see it happening every day here. I believe in people and process, and I don't think without a process something would work. The process might not be written and articulated, but if the process is followed implicitly in the culture of doing things, it helps. Let me look at an engineer who works for Wrike India, right? He or she has aligned to me as a center head, an engineering head on the India side, but he or she also has a solid line with their lead and engineering managers. And most of them, I mean, at least the existing team I have seen, they have a regular connect with their leads and their managers. And in fact, I did hear from one of the other engineers yesterday, Subbu, I had the connect for this end of the month, and this is the feedback I got. And this has been the feedback, and such enables me from my level that yes, they are making progress. That is one part of it. From my perspective, I do it a bit differently, and that's why I expect the team to be in office. So far, for reasons of our scale, it is not formal, it's pretty informal. When they are in office, we have lunch together. I go across and I understand what is that they have contributed for the week, and how do they feel about this contribution. Is there something more we can enable them with? If there are any shortcomings and such, how is that we can help them with, so they feel enabled and empowered. So I do it from my end, from my perspective, so that if I understand it from them, I can get it communicated back to our leadership team so that it gets incorporated. That's one part of it. But so far, that has never been warranted for, because the way we are, the way the culture is, which is open and transparent and direct, it has happened point to point. So my job has been a lot simpler. As long as you connect with everybody in your team and you have a pulse in terms of where they are heading, and that as long as they believe they are contributing and that is showcased by the outcome, I think everybody will feel empowered and accomplished. And yes, we need to do a pulse check. Is there a formal pulse check? Yes, there are formal pulse check process in play. But many a times a formal, nobody opens up from an India culture. When it is formal, they close. They don't openly talk about it. very easy to get this feedback in an informal sense. And having done it for long and having a people connect which is intrinsic to my characteristics, it's very easy for me to understand that, to see what course correction we need to make. When I talk to candidates, I usually position our product focus as the key element, building block. I think what has happened on the Indian eco space, Anton, as we discussed last, is a lot of them are lost in projects where there is no continuity in terms of projects. It is more technicality in how they are involved in. It's only the syntax semantics of what an engineer contributes to, and there is very little in terms of the domain and learning they leverage. It is pretty hard to compete with the big five, big six as FANG organization, and we are not even looking to compete there. Where I would say our positioning is more oriented towards a product focus, where engineering who onboards with Wrike, they are going to grow beyond the technicality of syntax semantics, and they are going to learn something new in terms of a domain, and our domain being the collaboration platform as what I position Wrike to be, even though when I talk to candidates, most of them do call out we are a project management, and I tell them we are beyond project management. One key aspect of Rike is definitely project management, but beyond project is the collaborative aspect of what this platform is capable of. So when I'm at least talking to candidates, the way I excite them is come. It's one thing is yes, we will invest and learn from you in terms of your technical competence as to how you can contribute. The second, from our senior leaders who are all very technical, you get to learn more about technicality, and that is something which they can come and leverage in Wrike India. The second aspect is grow beyond your technicality and start associating yourself with one particular domain. And if that domain for most of the candidate with Wrike is a collaborative domain, that is one area they can come and learn about what this collaborative platform has to offer as functionality. And there they can challenge themselves, trying to say what more in this functionality can I contribute to which is beyond technicality, and that is a sort of growing I am challenging them to acquire. That would basically mean these candidates has to look beyond Rike, start even seeing what Monday.com has to offer as feature functionality, where it is trending, where is Asana trending, where is Trello trending, where is Slack trending. So that sort of comparativeness will only come if they start looking at the domain. Technicality is definitely one piece. I think there may be even startups who could offer the top end of technicality, and we will find it hard to compete with. But technicality combined with the domain is how I'm positioning right to be. And it's a good space to be in. Most of the industries today lack in digital way to collaborate and enhance. If our platform offers that, that is a new learning a candidate will associate with. So in fact, today I was talking to somebody on the Salesforce side, and that is the same argument I have, right? I mean, the ability that we collaborate and integrate with so many products. I mean, think about the number of products Rike is integrating to. There are more than a handful of products, and Salesforce is just only one of them. And this candidate was also of the opinion, can I come with my mind map that these are other areas of collaboration? Would it work? I said, that is our culture in Rike. You can come with your thought process of where else, what else you can contribute, and we are more than prepared to hear from you. And if we see the value towards it and we position it with product management, we can always assimilate it. I think that's the thinking. That has been my discussion in a realistic sense. And whoever sees value that my life is beyond technology, it is also domain and learning, most of these candidates have resonated well with this thinking. If you look at the competitive landscape, I look at Rike being one, Monday.com being the other, Asana being the third. Candidates who I have spoken to also get the semblance of what Trello does and what Slack does in some fashion and form. But if I were to look at the bigger landscape, I would say Monday, Rike, and Asana. I think where we stand out personally, driven by my limited knowledge of whatever I have related to the product, when enterprises do have big, large, complex teams, and the ability for them to leverage Rike and customize Rike to their level of complexities is where I think we stand out. The ability in the platform that we give certain base functionality out of the box, Further aspect of this functionalities can be driven by blueprints of what we offer, which are also a domain centric way to customize this platform. And then the ability for businesses themselves to templatize whatever customization they do for one project, and the ability to reuse that customization across. I think those aspects of it is what I see we stand out when compared to competition. That is one piece. What I personally got very excited, I think I called it out in my last discussion as well, not being behind in this tech innovation, the way we have gone ahead and we have incorporated language model into what we do as part of generative AI. What I saw as a demo in our lab, which is as part of the future releases, really excited me. Something like a copilot, which is only seen in the tech world to accelerate productivity, the way we have assimilated it, the way we have integrated a copilot, whatever relationship we have with ChatGPT, the OpenAI part, I think that is a big winner for us as we go ahead, is how I envision us to be. The rest of it, in terms of feature functionality, we have a keen ear, we listen to our customers. And hence, driven by that approach, I think whatever is lacking on the platform, I'm sure we are already listening to the customers and we will build into the platform is given for me. But futuristically, whatever we are doing to do on the language model, generative AI, I think is what the future is going to be. My thinking is it should not be only limited to Copilot in terms of the job of what you do with Wrike, which gets automated through dialogue fashion. I also believe there is a lot of intelligence in textual form which is there in our database and systems, driven by what the customer has done, and the ability to put a language model to get certain intelligent insight out of that language data could be another way. I'm sure there are research teams within Reich which are already doing it, but that is another huge opportunity I see where we should drive this platform forward. On a competitive landscape, I think we are already there. Now, I frankly tried a little bit of research to say where is Asana and Monday trending on that side. Maybe it is also in their labs or not. I'm not too sure. I was not able to find any insights. But I know what we are doing as Reich in terms of Copilot and such, and I think that is something which is going to give us a lot of competitive edge as we move ahead. Otherwise, on a project management landscape, if you were to look at one competition to the other, everybody has almost all the key features. Our current September release, the Lightspeed release, where we came up with micro front end offering, and thereby that visualization and interaction with the end customer is another aspect which is going to give us a lot more edge. So I would categorize it as one is ease of use, the other is core functionalities which the customer is asking for. Then looking forward in terms of language model, generative AI, dialogue based interaction, I think the focus on all these three would give us a much better competitive edge than what the competition is prepared for. I think the one challenge which we are cognizant to from the engineering side is performance and scale. That has been a definitive focus. I think it's a SaaS based offering. We have two data centers driven by two data centers, one in Europe and one on the States side, and driven by all our technology. What is that we can do better in terms of the underlying technology for us to scale and perform better has been a key focus. And this was also covered as part of our engineering all ends, saying that is one area of definitive focus, whether we call it as a technical debt of what we need to accommodate and invest in, or whether it is something we need to do it for the future to ensure we are able to onboard bigger enterprises with. I am not too worried factually in terms of functionality and even in terms of any new generative AI perspective because we are already there. The ability to maintain, sustain, and continue to investing in the platform on the performance and scale could be the key criteria. The ability to do that and attain it at the same time be cognizant of the fact it doesn't cost any regression to the current platform in a hosted environment, I think that is a very nice balance to achieve. And I think we have a capable team. I'm confident of this capable team to achieve it. And that is the continuous focus we need to offer, scale and performance. The other bigger aspect which we already claim fame to is the data security. one of the core platform out there which has the inherent ability to encrypt data and thereby provide the data security, Rike stands out already. The question is what more in terms of scale and performance, because that would aid us in terms of what we need to position ourselves with the next big enterprises. I think Apple being one of our customers in a platform itself is something to acclaim for. Now, if you have to get other customers similar of Apple stature and such, performance, scale, data security already being there could be a key criteria for us to achieve. So I would say the two things which we need to focus, which is also aligned with our engineering focus, is performance and scale. We invest heavily on QA side. For one, we do invest in manual QA to start with, and we have a wonderful institute within Wrike which graduates this manual QA to QA automation. By itself shows the ability that as Wrike, we are not only looking at leveraging engineering competences one way, we are prepared to invest in their engineering competence and give them a path to grow. And I think QA is a good school to initially provide that offering, because anybody who comes in with manual QA, at least this is so true on the Indian eco space, any manual QA engineer wants to upskill himself and become an automation QA engineer. And if that is something which from Rike we offer through a institute which we have built, and I did hear from Yuri that we have built 50 to 100 QA automation engineers out of the school, is pretty commendable by itself, Anton, right? I think that's on the QAs. But the way I am seeing the way the team is structured, I don't think it is going to be limiting for anybody to start as an engineer here in an IC role and growing into a senior engineer. And the way we differentiate senior engineer is not by years of experience. And this is a cultural flaw which I saw between what India candidates expect to what we do within Rike. And there is a small history to it. I will take this opportunity to call out. In India, if you do talk to candidates, he will qualify himself as engineer or senior engineer, more driven by years of experience. 1 to 3 years as engineers, 3 to 5 years as senior engineer, 5 to 8 years as lead engineer. Nothing wrong. That is the culture of what has been built in our ecoscape, driven by how services organization operate. Services organization, engineers are commodity who are built for their competency. And typically 1 to 3 years, they are built as engineers, where the rate card is 1. Senior engineers 3 to 5, the rate card is different. Lead engineers, the rate card is different. So that way I have been in organizations in the past where usually driven by years of experience, people are graduated, not driven by competence. But ideally, an industry should identify competency in an engineer to identify whether he is an engineer working at a task level, very guided to what needs to be done, to a senior engineer who has graduated from task level that he can take ownership of a feature. He understands what it means to contribute to a feature in terms of design, technology, task, breaks it down, and then he's able to do it. And at a lead level where he doesn't do this, but he also is able to guide other team members, right? That aspect of clarity I saw is very clear in how Rike operates. And I think it is not how Rike operates. I believe that is how any product company will operate, driven by competency of what an engineer is capable of. But when I do here talk to engineers, their expectation is I am 3.5 or 4 years experience and I should be recognized as a senior engineer. In those cases, when we hire them in Rike as individual contributor, it takes some level of conversation to communicate this insight for them to understand. There are few engineers, they are always outliers who believe experience is only driven by number of years. They don't resonate with us, in which case it is fair. Best of luck to them. They can pursue their career in services industry, which acknowledges their years, but not their competency, and we will still look for competency. Most of the candidates, whoever has gone through our rounds of interviews, which involves one technical, there is one departmental discussion, and then there is a cultural interview, are very appreciative of the fact as to how this process is driven. And for many of these candidates, this very approach has given them confidence. There is structure in how we operate. And if they have a structure in an interview process, in their discussion, they bring it out. What is your structure in terms of career growth? And the way I position it is very similar to what I had called out in the past. Come in, be part of a global Scrum team. It gives you visibility not only to India engineers whom you have been focused with. It now gives you a scope to interact with engineers globally. And that is when they will realize in Wrike, we have engineers at a much senior level who are hands on, who are very competent in the product, the platform, what I call as a domain. Then also on the technology side for them to learn from and grow. I think from our perspective, you can come in as an individual contributor, be part of a global Scrum team, grow, learn, get into a senior level, start owning up your feature where you're totally responsible for the feature, then graduate into a team lead. Not only be responsible to yourself, mentor two more people who are junior enough, and then getting into a unit manager level. And unit managers level in Rike are not people managers, they are tech managers who know the technology, they know the product, they know the domain. Grow into it. I think that itself is going to be very driven for most of these engineers. One thing which I do call out irrespective of experience is eagerness to learn and be up to date in terms of where the market in terms of technology is trending. Not exactly that everybody needs to be an expert in everything, but at least being aware where is the technology trending, where do you think the technology is today, where it is trending for tomorrow. Is there anything I can upskill myself in terms of this technology where I can contribute? Could be one definitive thing. That is only possible in a candidate who has a soft skill that he wants to learn something new every day. The ability to converse with candidates and understand what he or she has learned for the last 3 months itself will indicatively tell you whether the candidate have that interest to learn and grow. Usually what happens is many a times driven by what they do day to day, they become complacent. They are not too excited to learn anything new, and that doesn't resonate with me. Even though we can consume them for their current work driven by the need, there is not much we can expect from them of what we need to be tomorrow. So that way, anybody who is more than willing to learn, anybody who is willing to know where the current trend is, where the future trend is. The second part, predominantly as an engineer, I think you also need to be communicative and be open and transparent. This is one other challenge in our country. There are a lot of good competencies, but they may not be as open and transparent in the conversation. So, the one thing which culturally we are also looking for is somebody who has open communication, who is not shy to give away inputs, whether at whichever level of the organization, right? I think that is another aspect. But that is somehow a cultural thing. I think there are a lot of competent guys in India who don't have that skill for reasons of where they have engaged in the past. But if you see, they have the other softer skills that they are open, they can be driven to communicate. I tend to invest in them, so that we'll invest in them and we'll bridge that gap, so they will be communicative in our ecoscape and they can become better. So I think aptitude, ability to learn, ability to challenge themselves and come and contribute in a new environment would what I look for in anybody for that matter. There are two aspects of agile I call it out. One is agile scrum as an engineering process is one, but the bigger aspect, if a company has to be successful in terms of agile scrum, I think the organization itself has to be agile. It's not just only engineering processes being agile will ensure an organization will be successful. That is where when I look at Rike, even the very process of how we operate as OKR, and this is something, if I remember, Atten, you called out in our last discussion, objective key results approach of what we take. I think that itself is a huge winner of sort. Now, driven by that approach, however we operate, and if I were to look at specific on the engineering side, we operate as an agile scrum teams, right? There are 18 to 20 odd agile scrum teams, each composing anywhere between 9 to 15 man team. Each team all encompassing, starting from a product manager to a product designer to a back end to a front end to a QA automation to technical writer. I think the team itself is composed in a fashion, it is very agile in terms of what it needs to achieve, focused on a particular customer outcome of whatever we have committed. One or n agile teams coming together and achieving it itself is a goal by itself. A scrum just enables you through its defined process of how you can make it happen. So I think that way we have got both the practices in an agile scrum team in terms of how we operate, which is all encompassing. The other aspect that we first talk to customers, figure out what the customer challenge is, take their objective outcome of what we need to achieve for a customer, trying to break it out as our key criterias of what we need to achieve, calling out each criteria and then saying what are the results for each criteria. I think that approach itself gave me a lot of confidence when I looked at engineering way of working. When I today talk to candidates and they ask me, Subbu, what is our model of engineering? This is exactly how I explain to them. You are going to come in, incubate in my team in India, and you are going to be part of a global scrum team. By global scrum team, I said this is the team structure of what we have, right? So that way you're going to get exposed not to people of only your competence, but people of competence across various skill sets. It is this team you're going to work with, it is this team you're going to contribute to, and this team will very clearly define what is the objective, what is the outcome we need to achieve. This also, when I talk to candidates, Anton, it resonates because most of them do today know Agile Scrum process. But if you ask me, many a times I have seen Agile Scrum wherein product management sits outside. It is not integral to that. And I have seen challenges come out of it. It is not cyclic by nature, right? And how we operate, I think it's very, very cohesive. And I think this is a time tested model because it gives you the ability to adapt easily. Any changes can be adapted, any new request can be adapted. So I think that way our continuous delivery process is very adapted to our way of working. If you have something to contribute in terms of technology, in terms of your innovative mindset, in the space you operate, in the technology you operate, I think you should definitely look at Wrike as a company where you should come as contribute, because we have that mindset. This whole environment is based on the fact we are transparent, we are open. We wanted people to come and question the normal and contribute more. If engineers are out there who have become complacent in their day-to-day working and they want to challenge themselves, I think ours is the company to look at. A very conducive place. We are very open to any form of input and feedback. I am a team player as an individual myself, and I believe the team I build will be also of similar stature. So you can be of whatever skill set. If your requirement or what requirement you come with resonates with our requirement of what we are looking for, you should reach out to us. All our positions are posted in LinkedIn. And what is not posted in LinkedIn, and if you still carry a skill set which you think you can contribute to Wrike, please write to me in LinkedIn. I will reach out to you and I will see how we can make this happen for you.